Well, back here at home, there were protests against the regime, and they took to the streets of the nation's capital, including right in front of the White House. They shouted, "Free Iran." Well, back here at home, there were protests against the regime, and they took to the streets of the nation's capital, including right in front of the White House. They shouted, "Free Iran," as hundreds of opposition demonstrators marched against Iran, calling for tighter sanctions and democracy in that country. The protesters are followers of the largest Iranian resistance group, the National Council of Resistance of Iran, and that march part of a series of global public demonstrations held against the regime. They started in Brussels last week, aimed at European Union leaders, urging them to follow in the footsteps of the U.S. when it comes to tougher policies, such as designating the Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization. They also called for more Western sanctions like those imposed by the Trump administration and point not only to Iran's shoot-down of that unmanned U.S. drone this week, but to the accusations both in Europe and here at home that Tehran has plotted assassination terrorist attacks against opponents who want to undermine the regime. The demonstrators also saw a video from the group's leader, Maryam Rajavi, who said it is the Iranian people who are suffering under, quote, a religious fascist regime. And she cited a litany of suspected Iranian attacks against Western and Arab allies and U.S. interests in the Gulf.
وقتی آخوندها قیمت نمیدهند، جری‌تر میشوند و قدم به پیش میگذارند. شلیک کاتیوشا در موصل و بصره و حمله موشکی به پهپاد آمریکایی نمونه‌های بسیار گویایی است. راستی
The demonstration started out at the State Department. Speakers on both sides of the aisle predicted that the pressure imposed on the regime could finally lead to its downfall. They then walked to the White House in what they called a march for regime change.